right? So let me talk about, let's explore something in our faith, okay? Let's really explore something in our faith. And this is something I really want to talk about, right? Because this is a question that someone gave me. And the interesting thing is, it's such an easy question, but then it's such a hard answer, like, whoa, I never thought about that, right? So everyone think about this, okay? This is a question. The question that was given to me is, well, they said to me, okay, so when we die, what happens? And we're like, well, our body dies and then our spirit goes to heaven, right? Pretty easy, pretty obvious. Heaven is a spiritual place. Our spirit goes into heaven. Our bodies stay here on the earth. They rot in the earth inside the ground, right? That's where we bury our bodies. Now, here's the thing. They said to me, so how long do we live in the spiritual world? And I'm like, duh. Like in my head, I'm like, duh, it's eternal, forever and ever, right? So here they are living eternally in the spiritual world. And then they ask the question is, then what the heck is the purpose of the body? Why do we need this body when it's gonna die after 90 years anyways? Why do we need this body if our body can't even see, hear, feel, touch, or taste God? Well, you can't really taste God, right? But like, we can't even do that. Why do we even need our body in the first place? That's the thing that we really have to understand. Do we need our bodies? And if we don't need our bodies and eventually we're gonna live forever in our spirits, then what's the point? Why would God even make it in the first place? Why does God need to make the earth? Because even science says eventually the earth will be destroyed. It has a time limit. The sun has a time limit. The sun will eventually, vanish after billions of years. It's still a long time, but it's no longer going to exist. So here we have a world that God creates that's going to no longer exist eventually. What's the point? What's the point? Right? If you look at Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 7, that's kind of the verse that I was talking about right before. What does it say? It says, the dust will return to the earth it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. It's simple. It's so easy. The spirit returns. So what do we need it for? Right? Has anyone ever really thought about that? Because living in your body, it is hard to believe in God. Isn't it? It's hard to feel God. How many times have you felt God and then later as time goes on, you start to sin again or start doing the old habits you did before? Because you don't feel God anymore like you did when you first came to church. And you're like, is this really, what's the point? And when you look at all the things that God says to us, it's like, hey, look at all these beautiful things I made for you, right? But then it's like, oh, but money's evil too. And we're like, well, why'd you make it? It's like we have all these things where we kind of look down on materialism and stuff, but these are all things that God has given to us. Many times in the Bible, like even with Job, he suffered and then he got double of what he had before. And you're like, what? Solomon did well. He was the richest man ever in the world. Why do we need it? Why is it even here? So where can we find the answer? And I'm going to turn you to a Bible verse in Romans chapter 1, verse 20. And when you read it, you're going to think to yourself, it doesn't give you an answer. You're going to feel like, wait, does that even give us an answer at all? And you're going to think to yourself, like, does it really? And let's take a look. It says, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, which is his creation, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Pastor Sky, what does that have to do with us having bodies or not? And the answer is, we can figure out why God gave us bodies. We can figure out why God gave us this world and all the physical things inside of it through looking at creation. And when you look at creation, you're going to see why God does things, right? All the things from the animals and the plants and trees and rocks, they are all symbols, right? They're all analogies of why God does things. So what does that mean? Okay, so remember, we're gonna get our answer through creation. So let's start off with something super easy. Something super easy is, let's start off with something like plants. Plants, how do you raise a plant or grow a plant? Easy, grab a seed. From that seed, you put it like 6 inches into the ground, or for people in the metric world, which is almost everyone, only the Americans would understand 6 inches. 10 centimeters, guys. You guys happy? So let's say, no, it's more than 10 centimeters. 6 inches is like that's like 15 centimeters, okay? So what happens here is, you put it into the ground, what do? You water it every day. You give it good soil, you fertilize it, and you water it every single day. Now, the first week, you're watering it. And when you look down at the seed, do you see anything? And the answer is you don't. But it's growing, but you can't see it. It's hidden, right? So you're like, wait, where is this coming? And about 2 weeks later, you're gonna be like, whoa, and then something like, bloop, comes out of the ground. You're like, oh, there it is. I knew something was growing. But before that, there was this faith. There is a faith that if you do what you're supposed to do, it's going to grow. Interesting, right? So what happens is, the seed has a preparation period where you water it, and it's underground, it is unseen, and after a few days, it germinates, it cracks open, and it begins to grow, right? That's the plant. Let's move on to the next level, look at animals. So if I have a couple of pigs, right? And then eventually the pig gets pregnant. In the beginning, do you know the pig's pregnant? And the answer is, you have no idea. But there's something growing inside. And whatever the gestation period is for a horse or a cow or a rabbit or whatever it is, they spend that time in the stomach unseen as a preparation time to come out into the world. And guess what? It's no different for human beings. Human beings, the gestation period is 9 months. And when a woman first gets pregnant, you're not gonna notice. Right? No one's gonna notice. It's so small. The stomach is still the same as it is. But it's growing. Unseen. No one has any idea. And I'm not sure, I don't know how many months it is before you start to see a little bit of a bump. You're gonna be like, wow. How many months is it? 3 months. There you go, 3 months. Oh, did someone say it in the room? No, I have females that are working in the back. They're like going, 3 months, duh, right? Right, so 3 months, you're gonna start to see a bump. What's happening? Those 9 months are in preparation for the world it is coming into. Just like seeds, just like animals, and just like human beings, God created it this way to show us something. So let's come to human beings. You and I, we were born all the same way, I'm hoping. Right? I'm hoping we're all born the same way. And during the time of, when your mother was pregnant, what was she doing? She was taking care of herself so well. She was taking care of herself. She was just, okay, this is what we got to do. All right, so, I'm going to make sure that, I'm going to make sure I eat well. I'm going to exercise. Why? Why do the parents do it? Why is the mother doing that? Why are they eating well? Why are they, they're not drinking. They're not smoking. They're not doing any of these bad things. Because every single thing you do during that 9-month time will affect the baby. And they know that if they do something wrong during pregnancy, the baby can come out deformed, disfigured, mentally handicapped. Or some of them will even die. And so what do? They take care of their baby so well during that 9-10 months, right? And when the baby comes out, what happens? If the baby is healthy, those 9 months, that short amount of time is determining what? 90 years. 9 months determines 90 years. That short amount of time determines a big amount of time. In the same way too, you have to think about this, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, how does that answer the question, why does God create the body? Why does he create the physical world? Why? Because it is the exact same thing that is happening right now. Your time on this earth, these 90 years that you live here on this earth, what you do right now will determine what will happen when your body dies and your spirit goes back to heaven. Now here's the caveat. If a mother starts drinking and doing drugs, and the baby comes out deformed without a leg or without an arm. Let me tell you something, guys. Way back, I think it's like 2008, I was in New Zealand. I was playing basketball, and I tore my Achilles. My Achilles completely snapped. I was in crutches for 3 months. Now, here's the thing. In crutches for 3 months, just 3 months, it's not my whole life, 3 months. And guess what? It was so tiring to get a cup of water. It was tiring to go to the store. It was tiring to walk to my bedroom. Like, I didn't want to do anything. And even though my parents and my brother, and they're like going, hey, don't worry, I'll get it for you. Think about it. After a week, you're like, oh, I just feel guilty to keep asking them, and I'll do it by myself no matter how hard it is. But think about this. If you're deformed in the stomach, you are going to be deformed for 90 years, your entire lifetime. Now take it to our level now. This world we live in is a womb. The bodies we have right now, they are a womb. And what we do for these 90 years, whether we take care of our spirits or not, is going to determine eternity. How well are you taking care of your spirit right now? It's the biggest thing. This short 90 years of time, even though it feels long, will determine eternity. The short time determines the long time. The 9 months determines the 90 years. The 90 years determines eternity. And this is why we have to be fearless explorers of faith. You can't stay where you are. You can't just be happy about having a foot or a toe. You got to develop everything.